Textbooks. As university students, we all have them. And we use them for almost every class we take during our pursuit of what feels like the ever-elusive degree. Foreign language classes are no different. Everyone who has taken a beginning course, be it in Spanish, Russian, Chinese, or even Korean if you're really dedicated, has a similar experience with their instructor's textbook of choice. Textbooks used to instruct Japanese are no different. From cover to cover, all Japanese language textbooks from major publishers follow a similar pattern of presentation. Today, I'm going to explore a variety of Japanese textbooks and see how visuals are used alongside the text. We'll start by establishing our categories. Categories, I hear you asking? Yes. We have two primary categories: books with instructions written primarily in English and books with instructions written primarily in Japanese. This is an important distinction because the target audience of either category is slightly different. Books with instructions primarily written in English are targeted toward, you guessed it, English-speaking populations. Books with instructions written primarily in Japanese, on the other hand, are often supplemented not only with English, but also Chinese and Korean, Japan's closest neighbors. This is important because in these instances, not only does the supplementary text reflect the target audience's appeal, but the visuals change accordingly as well. Let's start with textbooks with the instructive language written in English, the books targeting English-speaking populations. I will examine elementary-level books using both Genki 1 and Genki 2. For the intermediate level, I will reference An Integrated Approach to Intermediate Japanese. For the purpose of this video, I will abbreviate the titles hereafter to the following. Let's start by examining the exterior and moving inward. While a small sample size, the covers of each book employ no more than 3 colors. This keeps the visual aesthetic crisp and easily readable. While produced by different authors, both Genki 1 and 2, as well as An Integrated Approach, are all roughly the same size, being 350 pages on average. As a vast majority of university textbooks used in the United States are thicker, these books are a reasonable size for a softback book. Each of these examples are printed on the same weight of paper in black and white. As portrayed in the photos, both Genki books employ illustrations and the occasional photos to assist the impact of the text. While there are many sections of the book that don't have any images, much of the book does. The use of image breaks up the space of what would otherwise be a daunting spread of foreign information. An Integrated Approach employs less images than Genki, but does have an increased use of tables. The Genki books use a larger font for the reading portions, whereas An Integrated Approach uses a more standard-sized font for its readings. But moving on, let's explore the textbooks with instructive text primarily presented in Japanese. For the elementary level, I'll be referencing Nihongo Sou Matome N5 and J-Bridge for Beginners Volume 2. For intermediate text, Marugoto Nihon no Kotoba to Bunka Chukyuichi. For a slightly more advanced book, we have Powering Up Your Japanese Through Case Studies, Intermediate and Advanced Japanese. Finally, I will include an advanced book represented by Nihongo Sou Matome Reading Comprehension N2. Again, I will be shortening the names of these titles for the remainder of the presentation. Right away, we can see a big difference in the presentation of the covers. There's a lot more variety in the color usage, and many of the examples utilize illustrations or photos. Another big difference is the length of the books. Most of these are much thinner than the previous examples. J-Bridge and Marugoto are roughly 260 pages each, the primary difference in their thickness being the type of paper the books are printed on. Both Powering Up and Sou Matome are closer to 110 pages each. While the difference seems significant, and it is when compared to the English textbooks, all of these examples are much closer in representation to the standard textbook size of Japan. Inside, we'll find other notable differences. Each of these books, while varying drastically from the outside, have tab markers on each page of the book like a dictionary to help with navigation. Most of the books in this sample have supplementary texts in English, Chinese, and Korean. The exception being Marugoto, which only uses English as a supplementary text. Additionally, the text in each book appears roughly the same size. Like their English counterparts, each of these books employ illustrations or photos to assist the text and provide greater clarity. As the books become more advanced, again, less illustrations are used and there are more tables and graphs. This is a relatively small sample size, so I cannot truly speak for the whole of that which is the Japanese textbook industry. However, some patterns of the use of visuals have appeared, and I'll summarize those now. First, we looked at the external aspects of the books. The primary difference between English and Japanese presentations was mostly visible from the thickness or length of the book. While the book covers of the English versions appeared to be more uniform, the Japanese samples varied widely by series. Second, while the text size between the elementary and intermediate books of the English differed from one another, the text in all the Japanese books appear to be roughly the same size. The use of image seemed pretty similar across both the English and Japanese textbooks. The use of illustrations and photos only decreased upon higher levels, and the use of tables and graphs increased accordingly. Finally, one of the major differences between the two types of textbooks was the use of internal tabs to indicate the lesson of the book. The Japanese style employed tabs, whereas the English books had no equivalent apart from their chapter headings. In conclusion, all the books share similarities in the use of images to assist learning. The primary difference between the books is found to be dependent on the target audience. Thank you for listening to my video. Hopefully it was informative.